All right, we're going to do a quick review of power sets. And the idea behind a power set is that it's a list of all the subsets of a given set. So let's start with the set of all of your friends. Okay, maybe not all of them, but how about if we just do 3 of them? If you don't mind, I'm going to call the set F, and it's going to be made up of all of your friends. Okay, 3 of your friends. How about if we have your friend Gary, your friend Steve, and your friend Mary. All right, so what I'd like to do is I'd like to find all of the different ways that I could group these 3 friends together. Those would be the subsets. And if I were to do this in an organized manner, I would start with a group of 3 people. And so if I group them by 3, I would come up with a set that contains Gary, Steve, and Mary. That would be one way to group them, or one subset. Another way that I could do that is I could group them by 2 people. There would be Gary. I could group Gary together with Steve. I could also group Gary together with Mary. And then finally, I could group Steve together with Mary. I can't see any other possible way that I could group your friends by 2 people. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to find the groups that would be 1 person, just 1 person. Well, we could put Gary in a group by himself. I could come over here and put Steve in a group by himself. And then finally I could come and put Mary in a group by herself. Now there's another grouping that you may not think about, and that is 0 people. What if I had a group of no people whatsoever? And there's only one way that I can do that. There's actually 2 different ways that I can represent it. The first way is to either put a null, which is a 0 with a line through it, or I can just put empty curly braces to indicate that it is a group or a subset with no people in it. All right, so I'd like to ask myself, how many subsets, how many groupings have I found? Well, I can see that there is one way that I can group the people where there are no people in the group. If I come up and I try to identify how many ways we're able to group them just by 1 person, I can see that there are 3. If I were to try to figure out, or if I were to count the number of ways that I could group them by 2 people, I can see that there are 3. And if I wanted to group them by 3 people, there is only one way to do that. That means that I have come up with 8 total ways that I can group them, these 3 different people. So what we would like to do next is we would like to write these subsets in the power set notation. I'm going to have to move my screen down just a little bit to be able to do that. Okay, so to write the power set, I'm going to write the capital P, and then the set we defined as F. Now it is a power set, and so I'm going to list all of the different groupings that I came up with. The first grouping was all 3 of them. And so I'm going to put Gary, Steve, and Mary as one of the subsets within my power set. The next grouping were by 2. And so then I'm going to put Gary and Steve as another way that I can group them, comma separated from Gary and Mary. And then if you don't mind, I'm going to have to drop down into the next line. We're going to have Steve and Mary. Those were all of the groupings that I found of 2, but we also found groupings or subsets of 1. So I'm going to put Gary, and then I'm going to put Steve, and then I'm going to put Mary, and finally, oops, that is a subset, excuse me, and finally we're going to include the null set. And this is a listing of all of the subsets. This is how I write out the power set. Once again, there are 8 of them if I were to count them up. So now how can I tell how many there are supposed to be, how many subsets there are supposed to be in my power set? Well, the best way to do that is raise 2 to the number of people in the number of elements in my original set. There were 3 elements in my original set, Gary, Steve, and Mary. So if I take 2 and I raise it to a power of 3, it's going to give me 8. This tells me that there should be 8 subsets in my power set. And if you'll notice, when I originally counted them up, we counted 8. So this is a way that I can tell if I got them all. Anyway, if you have any questions, let me know.